Mike, I gotta know, are you like a diehard Cole Haans guy? Or like, I feel like Cole Haans, people that wear Cole Haans because...
I'm not diehard.
No?
But I like, especially, I mean, if I can get them on sale.
Yeah, there you go. That's the key. That's the key.
I have some others. Cole Haan, Johnson & Murphy, it's good.
A lot of Cole Haan, like people loyal to the brand, they're kind of like smokers where it's like, I only smoke Virginia Slims kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like the same thing with Cole Haan. So they're super comfortable.
I think when I got these, they were on like clearance. And I was like, exactly. Take a chance on these.
The old Nordstrom rack or something.
Yeah.
I've never owned a pair of Cole. So they are super comfortable?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
nerd fact on that. So like Salim Bedbury, the dude that made the Yeezy, like the shoe.
I don't know what that is.
So Kanye West's brand of shoes.
I didn't know either.
Yeah.
But like that sole, like the whole athletic look where it's not like, a piece of wood underneath you anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's from Celine. So it's all like the same dude that made Yeezy and a lot of Nike, the chain reaction Versace shoe. That's it. He just turned like a dress shoe into something cool. So
do you know what shoe I'm struggling with? I want to own it because they look so freaking comfortable, but I think it's one of the ugliest shoes I've ever seen. On Cloud.
Yeah.
The what?
On Clouds.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, everyone swears by them. They're like $200 a pair, $250
like the
a pair.
Now.
And everyone's wearing them, and I'm like looking at them, I'm like, it looks like that they weren't finished designing it yet.
Yeah.
And you put it on your foot just to test it out to make sure, and then they're going to put a skin around it to hide all that, whatever that is. And that's what I'm like. It just looks like an unfinished shoe.
This deal right here, is this what you're talking about?
Yes, I mean that's actually kind of a cool one, but no, but no, there are some that are more of the casual ones you'd wear. Like see, look at this black one at the. It just looks like an unfinished shoe. It's like, what's going on here? Like,
I got you.
I don't know.
Well, it's the same. Like everything is moving towards like these big heels. Like the same thing with what's it called? What are the running shoes you wear all the time, Aubrey? What are those called? Roka.
Hoka. That's a big one too.
Hoka's a big one.
That's Federer's brand.
Yeah. Then they all have
blown
these
up.
massive heels on them. Super comfortable and they run well and everything. But
these are comfortable. These are Sauconys. They don't actually make these anymore. These particular ones, but these things freaking the ever runs. Like I feel like I'm walking on a cloud.
Have you ever run in the mat?
I have.
Have you?
Well, I have a black pair that I run in.
Oh, okay. I got you.
I don't run in these.
I know you're not like a big runner, like you prefer other kinds of physical activity, but
I mean, I don't like running on hard surfaces. I like running on the little elliptical machines.
Yeah,
because I have bad knees.
Yeah,
but thanks for bringing that up. That's great. I'm glad everyone knows that now.
Well, you're more of a basketball guy, a dumbbell guy. Come on, I'm not funny.
Yeah,
it wasn't meant to be an insult, but if you took it as that's an added bonus.
Yeah, I know. It's well, congratulations, you got it all out there.
Welcome to the Legacy Angel Network Venture Lounge, where nothing ventured is nothing changed. For Matt Helmenthaler, press 1. For member services, press 2. For real raw startup stories, press 3. For all other questions or concerns, please wait on the line in our
Good evening, everyone. I'm Matt Helmenthaler, and you're listening to Venture Lounge, after-hour conversations with founders and investors. These are the stories, insights, and conversations that you aren't going to find on the company website. Because the real lessons you learn in the startup world, the risk you take as an entrepreneur, the highs and the lows, the moments in your journey when no one else believes in you right before you break through. Those are the moments that you just have to hear for yourself. So grab a drink and listen in to the men and women who are changing the world. Welcome to the Venture Lounge.
Welcome back to Venture Lounge, everybody. Venture Nothing Changed. I'm Connor Sherman, Creative Director here at Legacy, and I'm joining the couch, as always, by our fearless founder, Matt Helmenthaler. Matt, what's up?
Hello.
Mike, welcome to the podcast, man.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. Thanks for joining us. Tell us are you from here? Like, how did your journey in Melbourne begin?
I, like most people here, I'm a transplant. So I'm from the Midwest. Grew up in a really small town on a farm in
Where
Illinois.
at? Illinois. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Near Champaign, little town called Bement.
Nice.
And went to school at Illinois. And then when I finished, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. And I on a whim, moved to DC and worked on Capitol Hill for a few years. And then got a little restless there and decided to work on the political campaign and went back to Illinois.
Were you close to Chicago or no?
So when I grew up, we were like 3 hours south of Chicago.
Okay, I gotcha.
When I went back to work on the campaign, we were in downtown Chicago as the headquarters, and we were going all over the state. And long story short, that didn't work out, and I ended up coming down here to finish out the campaign cycle on the presidential race in 2004. That's what brought me to Brevard County.
Wow.
Had no intention of staying, and now here I am many years later. Had a detour to Tallahassee, but been back here since 2015. Also, this is home now.
So what kind of farming was done on the farm you grew up on?
We were it's all grain,
Okay.
corn and soybeans.
Nice.
You got the most fertile land there in the country in Illinois, Iowa, Indiana. So
So you guys had some like acres.
we had 1,000 acres.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
1,200, something like that.
So
my dad still farms it.
Nice. So
Incredible.
that's still in the family.
Still in the family. He needs to retire, but he's got to figure out who's going to take it over. I'm not there.
Has he ever heard voices saying, if you build it, they will come?
I don't know. I haven't asked him.
Some voices out in the corn, or
Like a
remember
UFO
signs?
experience.
Remember
Yeah, there you go.
You know, on the
I think it would be cool if he would build a baseball field out there in the middle of it. But we haven't done that yet.
all right. Well, you know.
Well, maybe that could be part of the succession business plan. You know what I mean? If you,
It's true. It's true.
So obviously, did you spend much time like in any of the major cities, Chicago or anything like that?
Not a lot, just to visit, you know.
So was DC like your first step into?
Yeah,
Metropolis?
DC was my first big city experience, living there.
What were you doing at the time?
So I was a staff assistant on it was the Government Reform Committee in
Nice.
the U.S. House. So
how did you land that? I mean, you could kind of have a whim. You go to me, like that's a founder-esque type of move. You know what I mean? Like that's an entrepreneurial kind of move. You go from farming 1,000 acres to let me try out DC, and then you end up at. So how did that happen? Like,
I'd like to say it was a founder-esque move, but in reality, that sounds better.
It does.
In reality,
just go with it.
When I finished college, I didn't have the greatest grades. All of my fellow graduates had been hired already. They were going to, at the time, I think it was the Big Six. They were going to all the accounting firms, the consulting firms, going back to Chicago, St. Louis. And I was still trying to find where I was going to go. And I had some friends that said, hey, we're going to go to DC. And I said, well, I'll tag along and see what it's like. And, they say when you get there, you get bit by the bug of the political thing and, Capitol Hill, and it just has a certain energy. And so, my friend who walked into her congressman's office, her local congressman in DC, and they said, hey, we just had our staff assistant quit. So do you want a job? Because they love to hire from the district. And it depends on the office. Some people only hire people from their district. Some people try to hire and they can't, so they'll hire from their state. Others don't care. I walked into my congressman's office and he was fully staffed. And so I was like, okay, check that box off. And so I pulled out my Illinois network and through a friend of a friend got connected to a guy who worked for a congressman from North Carolina. And he very bluntly said, well, you're not going to get hired because you have no experience on Capitol Hill. So my suggestion would be intern in our office. They said, we'll let you intern for free. And then while you're here, someone, that gives you the opportunity to find where you're going to go. So for some reason, I thought that sounded like a good idea. And I think within a month, I'd moved out there full time, and I was interning during the day, and I was waiting tables at night to actually pay rent and make ends meet. There's a bar on Capitol Hill called Bull Feathers. I think it's still there. And it was kind of a congressional hangout for members and staff. And I actually met a lot of people working there that I'm still friends with today. And through different connections, within a few months, I got hired by a staff committee was looking for a position. And since I actually had experience and I had references, I was able to get that job. And then within a few months, the member I worked for had an opening, and I went back to his office. So that was my 3-year stint on Capitol Hill, was working for a committee and then working for a congressman.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I mean, really, you're the president of the Melbourne Chamber. Mm-hmm. We didn't cover that.
Right. No.
Yeah. If I'm looking
jump right into it
today, I had a stiff neck. I slept on it wrong.
The worst,
so I'm just like doing one of these. So I apologize. I'm turning my whole body to look at you. But anyway, so networking has kind of played a role for you in the very beginning, because I mean, something I really admire about the job that you've done with the Melbourne Chamber. I've lived here for over 30 years, 35. I don't know. I've lost count. I've lived here for a long time. And this is not a dig to any previous person who had your job prior to you, but I've never seen the Melbourne Chamber roll with this level of success. There's a buzz that the Melbourne Chamber has across the entire county. Like, people want to belong to it. Because I mean, you guys have done a great job of bringing all the right people into the right room, and it sounds like is that kind of where the bug started? It's kind of like back then. I mean, you saw how all those kind of connections worked, and you learned how to connect people. And
yeah, I mean, first off, thank you for the compliment. Appreciate that. The Melbourne Chamber does have a very lengthy history, almost 100 years. In 2025, it'll be 100 years, and has had a significant impact in that 100 years on the growth of this area, not just Melbourne, but things that people don't know about, like the O'Galley Causeway that didn't exist. The Chamber was a catalyst to get that funded from the state decades ago.
What do one of those cost, just to throw in a causeway? You know what I mean?
Probably at the time it was $50,000 or $1 million, but in today's money, I have no idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't even want to.
I can't remember when that was, and then even 192 used to be a 2-lane road, and the Chamber was one of the main advocates to get that expanded because it was such a main thoroughfare. And that's just one of many examples. But to your point, it kind of just was by accident, but for my entire career, starting on Capitol Hill and then the political stuff and then lobbying, a lot of my career has been focused around relationships and networking and building relationships and working with very diverse groups of people who have different opinions, different philosophies. And so that even though when I started at the Chamber almost 6 years ago, I'd never worked for a chamber, it was very natural and very easy because so much of my career had been, at its heart, the Chamber is about connecting people and networking, and that's what I've been doing since, like you said, since I went to DC and started back then.
Yeah, you guys have done a tremendous job in just providing education, providing a platform for people to connect. But I've been to some other local chamber things. No one does it quite like you guys, and I don't know what the secret sauce is. But I mean, you and your team, man. I'm guessing that's the secret sauce. It's really, and that's not a dig on the other chambers, but I've been really impressed.
Thank you. Yeah, we have lots of great chambers in the area. We each kind of have our own niche. And for me, we do have a great team. It starts with our team, and we've got a great board. We've got board of directors, executive committee from a lot of different companies, nonprofits, different entities that really care about the community. And at its heart, that's what the chamber is, kind of the heart of the community. And, yes, we do the networking. People think, there's this myth that chambers are just about networking events, and that's all we do. And we do that. We do have after hours, and we have different meetings where people come together and get to know each other. But it's much greater than that. It's bringing people together. It's education. Like you said, it's our Small Business Council, our Good Morning Space Coast, where we have interesting speakers talking about what's new in the area, what's coming, what's relevant in the business world today. But then, more importantly, and what a lot of people don't see or recognize, is the advocacy. And when I say advocacy, that takes on different forms. It's going to Tallahassee with our legislative agenda. It's working with our local city council, our county commission on policies that they might be instituting that have an impact on our business community. And it's taking leadership on issues. Right now, a big priority for us is Ellis Road. And, we got this beautiful interchange that opened off I-95 a few years ago, and it dumps into Ellis Road, which is a 2-lane road that's a main thoroughfare to the airport and to those thousands of employees that work at L3 Harris, Northrop Grumman, Collins Aerospace, Leonardo DRS. There's over 20,000 employees on airport property during the day that feed in, oftentimes coming from Vieira or Palm Bay, West Melbourne, and a lot of them want to come in on Ellis Road, and they can't right now because it gets backed up. And so we're advocating for the expansion of that road, and it's a process, and we're making progress, not as fast as people would like, but that's just one example. A big issue now is obviously housing. It's talent and workforce, and those are big pillars of our legislative agenda. Tallahassee, we had some success up there that was certainly not due to us. It was just things we were advocating for are priorities of many people around the state right now. And so there was a big housing bill that passed that is going to allow municipalities to have some flexibility in how they implement workforce housing, affordable housing. There's some additional funding coming towards affordable housing. So we're interested and anxious to see how that's going to play out and what may come of that. But it is, chambers are connectors. Chambers are trying to get everyone to, see how we can move the community forward. What can we get funding for the health of our Indian River Lagoon is another priority. How can we raise awareness of that issue? And, our legislators did a great job this session of bringing money back to continue the cleanup and the restoration of that as well. So it's a lot of different issues that we're working on behind the scenes that we probably don't do a good enough job of telling people that we're doing that work.
No, very cool, Michael. And with you being like a transplant to the area, I think that's something to at least highlight, because having people that are that have an outside frame of reference that come here and you can add your skill set and experience to the table. Was there things initially when you brought your family here that you were that you immediately identified as like, these are opportunities or areas where our community could grow, and then you becoming a part of the chamber, what did you identify as exciting opportunities, kind of thing?
So when I first moved here, I was young and single and in my 20s and wasn't really thinking about any of that stuff. And it's been fun to be here over the last 20 years and see the community evolve and grow, and be here. You know, even though I wasn't living here at the time, I was in Tallahassee when the NASA and the space shuttle went away, and there was some pretty rough times.
It was devastating.
I was not living here at the time, but I was still coming back, and I was seeing the impacts of it. I was seeing what the housing market looked like. I was seeing the high unemployment rate. And so what's been most exciting coming back now is to see how we have rebounded. And I give all the credit for that to our Economic Development Commission and the work that Linda Weatherman has done leading that. And Linda, she's fantastic, and obviously lots of partners that have been part of that, but she really was the leader of that effort in diversifying the economy, getting new companies to come here, getting companies that were already, getting Embraer to come here, and Northrop Grumman, who was already here, getting them to expand, getting more manufacturers. Manufacturing is now, the growth of manufacturing over the last 10 years has been exponential, and we're one of the leaders now in the Southeast with jobs there. So that's been really exciting to see all the growth in those different areas and how far we've come since 2010, and what's still, we still have a lot of opportunity. Vieira is still growing, Palm Bay is still growing, Titusville, Cocoa, the entire county. It's hard to pick one area that is not having a boom right now or a renaissance of exciting investment and people that are now discovering the area from outside, like me. And I meet people every week now that are moving in from different states, whether it's the Northeast or the Midwest, or they're coming up from South Florida because South Florida is too congested. So as that is happening, we need to make sure we continue to grow smartly, so we don't lose the charm of the community that we have. When I moved here, that was one of the things that, I'm from a small town. I grew up in a really small community. Everybody knew everybody. Obviously, Melbourne is not like that, but it had a lot of similarities in that, Melbourne is growing and it's pretty significant in size, but it has a small town feel.
It does.
It's a very welcoming community. I've friends, I have a lot of friends that grew up here, friends that are new here, and we all kind of just come together and everybody gets along. Everyone's working for the betterment of the Space Coast, and that's exciting to see.
Sure. And to your point, if anyone tries to push out Mustard's Last Stand, we've got to beat them with a footer or something. You know what I mean?
That's one of my son's favorite places.
Man, just a cult classic. It feels like Pulp Fiction or something.
You can get a great Chicago dog there.
Yeah.
Have you been to the OG location?
Is that the one down here?
No, it's on US 1.
That's the only one I go to, Matthew. Boom.
Look at you, man. Look at you.
Man, it's killer. It's killer. They got Mustard's Last Stand and the Metallica font on the window. You know what I mean? They're out of control, man.
Yeah.
They're out of control.
So what's your favorite hot dog there?
It's the one there was one with pineapple and sriracha. It was the combination of the two that was there's 100 to pick from. I can't remember what the name is.
I'm a
spicy Hawaiian.
As long as no one puts ketchup on their hot dog.
Is that
I think it's a sin. I think
Really?
it's absolutely wrong to put ketchup on a hot dog.
You're a classic Mork
There was
kind of guy.
there was a place of this. I don't remember the name of it down in South Florida. They were world famous hot dogs, and the owner there was no ketchup in his restaurant. He would not allow ketchup to be put on any of his hot dogs.
I respect that. I respect that.
What do you put on your fries then?
I have no idea.
You don't get fries.
Salt?
No,
They don't
I
sell
don't know.
fries.
Exactly.
Salt,
Stop.
I guess. I don't know.
So classic mustard, onion, relish.
A good fry doesn't need ketchup. This is just one man's opinion.
Well, when did you start getting interested in your career path now, Mike?
That's a good question, and I'm that guy who's never had a 5-year plan or a goal of hey, I want to go run a chamber of commerce. There's some people that grow up in this industry that, we have a lot of dedicated professionals in the chamber industry that start right out of school and work their way up. I never had a calling for that.
What did you want to be when you were a little kid? Do you remember?
I wanted to be a baseball player, and then in the off season, I was going to be a doctor and a lawyer. Do both of those, and
real lucrative, career.
And then it just none of those panned out for some reason. I don't know what happened.
Amazing.
But so like I said, when I finished college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I went to the Hill, and then that led to the political world, and then the political world led to lobbying. And I did that for about 10 years, and was still not sure what I wanted to be when I grow up. And I still say that to people. I don't know, I think being from the Midwest, you develop a work ethic. And so you work hard and opportunities come to you. And this one kind of just fell in my lap. At the time, I was working for Sanford Burnham Biomedical Research, which was a research institute based in Lake Nona. Well, they had a campus in Lake Nona. They're based in La Jolla, California. And I had left Tallahassee. I was living in West Melbourne. I was commuting to Lake Nona. I was doing their lobbying efforts for funding for their research. And while I was there, they decided that, the leadership of the institute decided that it didn't make sense to be in Florida anymore. So they were going to wind that site down. And so that gave me an opportunity to then, figure out what's next. And I was looking at some different lobbying opportunities. Right at that time, I actually went to an event in the community here. I'd never really been to any events. And my friend Kim Agee was on the board at the time. She still is, but she was on the board and said, it was almost a conversation in passing with someone else. So the CEO of the chamber, we just let go, and now we need to replace that person. And it was almost this aha moment when I went back home that night and thought, okay, here's an opportunity. I've been looking for something in the community. Most of the things I was looking at were in Orlando. With my background, it was easy to go to DC or Tallahassee and get a job.
Right.
It's a little bit harder to be here and get those jobs.
Yep.
There aren't as many opportunities. And so I started doing some research on the chamber and talking to folks in the community. And, I'd had a lot of, when I was in Tallahassee, I'd worked a lot with the state chamber, and I'd had the opportunity to work with local chambers through the state agencies that I worked with. So I had familiarity with the chamber, just what it was, and what they're all about. And so I threw my name in the hat, and one thing led to another, and here we are 6 years later. So back to your original question, it wasn't like this plan, or it wasn't something that I was angling for. It just kind of, like many of the roles I've had, it was like right place, right time, and it's worked out. And, when they, the average tenure of a chamber CEO is about 3 to 5 years. So I'm on borrowed time now as I get past 5 years. But fortunately, I have great support from the board and our executive committee, and they keep joking that I'm in this lifetime contract now, even though I don't have a contract. They're like, okay, you got, you're 5 years in, you got to do 10 and then 20, and then, you're just going to retire from the Melbourne Chamber. So we'll see. I love what I do. It's a great opportunity. It's a great community. So maybe I'll be here for the next 25 years. We'll see.
I got 3 questions for you.
Uh-oh.
I'm just going to rack them up while he's talking.
You're
All right.
scheming over there.
So first, what were the things that you liked about politics And what are the things you didn't like about politics? Juicy stuff here.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then, so that's the first question. The second,
That's two.
Well, that's two. All right. The third question is, while it wasn't a plan to go find a job, running a chamber, you did find it, and clearly there were some intentional things that you had to do. I mean, it's a business. At the end of the day, the chamber's a business, and it went from here to here in the last 6 years. So there are things that you had to do to grow this business. And I think that our listeners would really be curious the different things that you have maybe done or implemented or thought through or strategized to actually grow this business, because you absolutely have. So the first one is more of a personal question, that I think could be fun. And then the other one is, from an educational perspective for our listeners, how did you guys do that?
Yeah. So what I like best about politics, I think many things, but probably at its heart, I am a very competitive person. I don't like to lose. I like, whatever I'm doing, I like to make into a competition. And with lobbying, it was almost like a game. It was like, okay, each session, it's like, okay, what's the goal? We need to pass XYZ bill, or we need to get this appropriation funded. And so it was like, here's my task. Now go figure out how to make it happen. Put the plan together. How does the bill become a law? How do you get the appropriation? Map that out. Who do you need to talk to? Who are the allies you need to develop in the legislature? Who are the partners you can get to weigh in on your behalf? And it was just, I liked the game of that, and it was fun. It was an adrenaline rush to go into the Capitol in Tallahassee and try to accomplish these different initiatives, for whoever I was working for at the time. And then just meeting different people and getting to know different people. And, be working in the Capitol, you meet people from all over the state of Florida, from Pensacola to Key West to everything in between. And you learn that Florida is a really, really big, diverse state. And, someone in Jacksonville is very different from someone in Alachua versus Highlands County versus Fort Myers versus Miami versus Fort Walton Beach versus Melbourne. So I enjoyed meeting all those different people and learning from them. That was fun. What did I not like? I don't miss the influence of money in politics, and I'll just leave it at that.
Man, I respect that one. I really wanted that to go further. But yeah, I think we all understand where you're going there. Yeah, that's yeah. Agreed.
What was the second question or the third question?
Well, the third question.
So
the growing
when I
of the
started
business.
at the chamber, so I think one of the reasons I got hired was they liked my background in policy, and the Melbourne Chamber has always had a focus on advocacy and being, like I said, there's this history of taking on challenges in our community, advocating for different things. Back in the 70s, Melbourne, the Chamber was one of the main advocates for the merger of Melbourne and O'Galley and Palm Bay, trying to bring them into one municipality that ultimately passed in Melbourne and O'Galley, but didn't pass in Palm Bay and West Melbourne, and so that's why we still have separate entities there. But so I think they liked my background there, but they also liked that I hadn't worked at a chamber before, because they were ready to kind of change things up, see some new ideas,
something fresh,
take a fresh look at it. And so I didn't come in with any preconceived notions. And, chambers have really had to evolve. Chambers have been around for centuries, and what the chamber looked like 100 years ago is different than what it looked like 50 years ago and what it looked like 15 years ago. And chamber, there are a lot of chambers that are dying, as many membership-based organizations are struggling these days, because you've got a lot of competition, you've got a lot of opportunities, you've got a lot of networking groups. So it's up to chambers to evolve or die. And so we took a hard look at how we were operating when I got there. We looked at everything, different events we were doing. We were doing over 200 events annually, and it was just a grind on the staff. And so we took a step back and said, okay, what do we really need to focus on? Instead of just having events, let's do events with a purpose. Let's do events that are actually going to bring valuable content, bring value to our partners. And that's what we've tried to do. I'd say I'd spent the first year or two really just trying to be out in the community, because I see the chamber CEO. My role is to connect people, and so I need to know everybody.
Yep.
I need to know what's going on. I need to know what challenges people are facing, so I can connect the dots and help them. So it was a lot of one-on-one meetings with elected officials, with business leaders, with chamber partners, with nonprofit leaders, to just make sure people know, hey, I'm here now. Here's who I am. Here's what we're trying to do. Consider us a resource. And so that took a lot of time. That took a lot of effort. But I think that helped to create the buzz of like, okay, the Melbourne Chamber is relevant. They want to help the community grow. They want to help the community prosper. They're a place to be. If I want to get visibility in the community, if I want my business to grow, I need to be a part of that organization. I need to be involved in that entity. So that's kind of, I hope that answers your question a little bit as to what kind of, it was just a wholesale, let's take everything down and kind of build it back up.
That's awesome. I mean, and I remember when you first took over the chamber, from a social media perspective, I saw your face everywhere all the time. And I remember thinking, I didn't really know you, that first year. I think I met you your second year. But I remember thinking, that guy has got to be exhausted. that was my thought. I was like, that is exhausting to me. Like and I'm a personable guy, but as many things as you were at, I just thought, man, I
think people got tired of seeing my face on social media.
I don't think anyone got tired of seeing your face. You're a beautiful man.
I've cut back on my posting.
But I mean, I was just thinking, this guy's going to burn out. I mean, that was my worry for you, and I didn't even know you.
I tried to be smart about it and not go 24/7. But I did feel like I needed to be, there was a time I felt like I needed to be everywhere. Yeah. And now I don't feel like that.
That's good.
I've got a good team in place. So it's whether, if I can't be somewhere, someone from our staff can, someone from our board can.
Yep.
So, I don't have to be present for the chamber to be represented or relevant.
Which is sweet.
We have tentacles in the community that can represent the chamber, and people will know that even if I'm not there, the chamber is still there to support them. So that's been helpful.
Well, and the members that belong to the chamber are picking it up too. Like it's like the vision and the mission has gotten down to all of the people involved.
Yeah.
Which has got to take a ton of pressure off of you. I mean,
yes, absolutely.
That's phenomenal.
Our staff, our board, our ambassadors. We've got some terrific ambassadors for the chamber that go to all our ribbon cuts. They go to all our grand openings, all our anniversaries, all our chamber events, and they're our eyes and ears on the street. They're recruiting new partners. They're telling people what we're all about, what we're trying to accomplish, and so having that group of people is really helpful as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Obviously, Mike, your experience is very influential in how you view life and business. But are there were there mentors in your life, relationships, books you read, anything like that? Like, what's built you as a that kind of like entrepreneurial or academic side of you?
Great question. Yes, I've been fortunate to have many different role models, people that I depend on, people that have, starting from, as a kid, just watching my grandfather, who was an entrepreneur, who was an inventor, really, and started a company that's still going now that is known as Simtech Filtration, and it's a company that manufactures fuel filters for gas pumps and other products, and that's 100 people in Illinois that work there, and I'm actually going up to a little town called Kennett, Missouri, this week to go do a grand opening for the factory, an expansion of that facility. So, from a young age, I saw my grandfather and then my dad who ran the farm, and, he made it a priority to be involved in the community. He was in the Lions Club. My uncle was in the Rotary. There are a lot of different civic organizations that my mom was on the school board. My dad ran for state rep. My uncle was the mayor. I kind of grew up just having it ingrained that you need to be involved in the community.
Stuff right there.
You need to give back. You need to be involved in nonprofit board service. You need, I think, even though I didn't have the intent to go into it, politics was kind of in my blood from growing up around it. And then when I get into my career, my first boss on Capitol Hill was a guy named Tim Peters, who I'm still friends with. He's back in Chicago now, but I learned so much from him on just how to navigate the process in DC, how to navigate the political world. And then, looking at my time in Tallahassee, I had a lot of great mentors because I worked for 3 different state agencies. And each of those agencies had some really strong directors who coincidentally were all females. So I had strong women mentors throughout my time in Tallahassee that I learned so much from. And just some of the other, deputy secretaries and other leadership of those entities, a lot of my formative years from like 26 to 35 were spent in those agencies, learning from those people. Had a lot of great mentors. And then even in our community these days, looking at, I look at all of my board chairs that I've had, starting with Brent Peoples, and then Kim Agee, and then Todd Pacriva, Jeff Robinson, Neil Johnson, now Deb Harmon. Those are some really incredible leaders in our community that are successful in the business world, but they're successful personally as well. And I've learned so much from each of those individuals. So I feel very blessed to have the people in my life. I hear horror stories from people that have had terrible bosses or bad experience, terrible, I had a great upbringing. I had great mentors. So it's been a really great way for me to learn.
Very cool, man.
That's awesome.
And yeah, just that, especially like that family component in your early formative years, it's cool to hear is when a family has like a multi-generational family vision and shares that like kind of environment or entrepreneur, like philanthropic kind of bug that they have, you know what I mean? Like where you want to be a part of that same story, you want to leverage your assets or be in the middle of that communal work. That's cool.
So what do you see, the kind of the future of, next 5 years, kind of Melbourne looking like? I mean, your fingers are on the pulse of a lot of stuff economically, and you're in rooms that a lot of people aren't, which some of those things you can talk about, some you can't, but like, what do you see for Melbourne in the next like 3, 4, 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Melbourne is hot in this, as the whole Space Coast is. And I think, I don't think anybody wants to be, no disrespect to Fort Lauderdale or Miami or Tampa. Nobody wants us to have skyscrapers here. but I do see more cranes coming. We had.
It's actually a really good sign.
It's a sign of progress in your community. When we had the High Line going up, and then we had Hotel Melby, and now we're seeing the Margaritaville project come out of the ground. I think we'll continue to see more cranes. I think we'll see more multifamily development, more hotels, and they're popping up everywhere, not just in Melbourne, not just in downtown. I think you'll see downtown continue to be hot. EGAD, Cocoa Village, Titusville, Vieira. There's growth coming everywhere. You drive around Vieira and there's a new apartment complex starting every few months, and they're starting in on their town center there across from the avenue, and so Vieira's got tremendous growth potential with their new Barrows West business park. They've got a lot of restaurants and hotels on the books there. It's just continued growth, but hopefully in a smart way that will maintain the charm of the Space Coast, the intimacy of the Space Coast. But I get calls all the time from people from South Florida and other areas outside of the market that are like, okay, we've seen this, we see the growth, we see all the jobs being created, we want to be a part of it. Where do we look? Who do we talk to? So we're going to continue to see that. But I think I think we have good leadership in place at the city and county level that will do it in a smart way. So we just want to be a part of that and facilitate it as much as we can.
That's good. That's awesome.
You keep describing like that Melbourne has this charm to it, right? Is it like, how would you kind of describe Melbourne culture and what you guys want to maintain or protect? Is it just that it is in close proximity to all of these thriving organizations, but still has that, like, the beach cottage kind of vibe? What's your thought on that?
It's hard to point to one or two or three things. It's just one of those, like, you know it when you see it. But it's like, walking outside your office here and going downtown here and seeing all the stores that are very unique, seeing the restaurants, and then going to EGAD. Not many places have two downtowns.
Right.
We have downtown Melbourne, downtown EGAD, and that has a totally different vibe, more of with the arts scene, and they have some really cool shops there. They have some things coming. There's great restaurants, but you've got these downtown centers that people can walk around in, and that's important. And that's what these companies are looking for that are growing. It's nice that we have the High Line that people can now live downtown. I think we'll continue to see more of that. But we have the beach community, so people who love the beach or want to be on the water have the opportunity to be on the river, have the opportunity to be on the beach. But then we also have some great culture from whether it's the King Center, the Henniger Center. We've got some great community theaters here.
Whole performing arts scene.
A lot of performing arts. We've got, we just did a big opening for the Derek Gore's Gallery last night. And, we've got some renowned artists in our community that are doing some great work. We've got the Brevard Zoo in our backyard. Most people don't realize how highly rated that zoo is on a national international scale, and that it's in our backyard. We can go there all the time.
We have Legacy Angel Network.
We've got the Legacy Angel Network.
There's that right in the
Who
heart.
else has that?
On the corner.
Groundswell Startups, one of the most successful incubators in the Southeast, if not the country.
Get it, Jaron.
Doing great things, Jaron. So it's all of those parts and pieces together. You don't see a community that has that mix of the arts, the culture, the downtown, the walkable downtowns, the incubators, the support for business, the large corporations that have facilities here.
Right.
The space, we haven't even talked about space.
Yeah, extremely. Just like the number of people, like how diverse it is because of the people that are moving here. It is extremely eclectic.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, from an economic perspective too, this type of environment is great for job retention. So when Harris, hires that employee at $100,000 a year, if you have things for these younger employees to do, they're going to stay here and they're going to grow here and they're going to meet their significant other here. They're going to maybe raise a family here and they're going to but I mean, to your point, it's the culture here that people really fall in love with.
Right.
That kind of keeps the area kind of nestled and growing, but it's still, I've been here since I was a kid, and even though it's grown tremendously, it still feels small.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what people like, that it still has the small town feel, even though it's not a small town.
Yeah.
And 20 years ago, and that's something that we have been working on as a chamber, as a community, of, okay, how are we going to help these companies that are recruiting these younger workers retain them?
Yep.
And, it used to be that there wasn't much in the downtown. Vieira's blown up in the last 20 years. Cocoa Village, beachside, there's, if you look at where, the community was 15 years ago, there wasn't much for someone to do in their 20s. And that's why a lot of these people would graduate, go to college, and a lot of them weren't coming back. Yep. Or they were coming back once they had kids and they had a family and they wanted to come back to this area for those reasons. I think now you're seeing young workers have more things going on here, and it gives them a reason to be here, and it makes it easier for those companies to retain them. And that's what we want to see, that progress continue. And then, once they're here for a few years, like you said, they meet their spouse, they then start a family, and then it's like, this is a great place to have families. We've got great schools, we've got great parks, we've got all sorts of outdoor activities with the lagoon, the rivers, the beaches, the zoos, but then you're only an hour to Orlando with world-class theme parks. You've got the Space Center in the north part of the county. You're not far from Miami and Fort Lauderdale. You're not far from Tampa. You've got so much going for us with our location where we are, that if you do want some of those bigger city attractions, you can get there in a day, or get there and back in a day, or you can go for a weekend. And it's, you could spend all year visiting different parts of Florida and, taking trips and never have to leave the state of Florida, because there's so many different little cities that are within a 3 or 4 hour drive. And that I think that just adds to the charm too.
So many of my friends that I grew up with, I'm talking third grade Mrs. Moon's class,
amazing.
She didn't like me, but to her credit, I wouldn't have liked me either. But people I grew up with, I knew in the third grade, many of them are still here in Brevard County, having successful careers, raising their families. So many of them are still here. It blows my mind. I actually wanted to get out of here, and I married a girl who did not want to get out of here, and then I'm very thankful for that, because I would have missed out. This is a really, really cool town.
Well, a lot of them that did get out of here are now coming back in their late 20s or in their 30s or 40s. They're like realizing how special it was, and that they want to get back to it. And
do you know what this town needs?
What, Matt?
You're laughing before I even say it.
No, you're on.
All right.
Lots of things.
It needs a lot of things, but something that I have not seen here. Maybe it already exists, but we have all these cool downtowns: Cocoa Village, the EGAD, Melbourne. I think in probably 2075 Palm Bay. Sorry, Palm Bay, I love you, but we need to get that going.
That's your grown in, or growing
I
up
raised
in
my
Palm
family
Bay.
in the Dirty Bay. I'm allowed to make fun of it.
That's what I'm saying.
All right, so anyway,
familiarity breeds contempt.
It's ghost tours. Every small town needs a good ghost tour. There's no ghost tours. Come on.
Yeah, I don't know.
Has anyone
I
brought
think
this
those
issue
are
to you
really
yet?
great in St. Augustine
Come
and
on.
Savannah. I don't.
Have you guys discussed
Well,
this
here's the
at the
thing.
chamber?
There's some interesting buildings over in Cocoa Village. I saw this one just this last weekend. I ran into you guys when you guys were there with your family, and we were sitting right in front of it eating some food. And I looked up, and there was like a Shriner's like symbol in the brick, and then above that, about 10 feet, was I'm not joking, a swastika. And I'm like, what's
Haunted
the
for
story with that building? I'm just saying.
Ghost tour.
Ghost tour. Oh,
Write it
this
down.
building that we're in, there's like supposedly a ghost in this building. Like, I don't know. But, ghost tour.
Something to work on.
I was going to suggest you work on it, but
I think you have more of a passion for it, so I'll let you run with it.
okay. Well, I don't have time.
Michael, we need something visceral, man. We need your scrappiest start, like your scrappiest entrepreneur or career story. You know what I mean? Is there an all-nighter? Is there a, tight deadline? What is it?
Did someone almost die?
Yeah. What have you done? I mean, you were all over town.
That's hard to say. I don't have any exciting stories. I'd say the time I worked the hardest was when I was working here on the campaign, because that was like a 7-day a week. I was probably working 18-hour days, 7 days a week.
Man.
And I was going through, people who know me know I love Dr. Pepper, and I would go through like a case like every 2 days, because it was just nonstop. Because in the heat of the campaign, you only have
you been
so
checked
many
out?
days.
Are you all right? You're
I've cut back over the years, so I think I'm okay. I'm down to like one every other day.
all right, that's good.
But when I will say, so something not many people know, and I've kept it hidden, is when I first got here, so it was 2004, it was the Bush Cheney campaign I was working for. And I think the second week I was here, John Kerry was coming to visit Cocoa Beach. So that was a big deal when you're the campaign staffer in the area where the opponent is coming to visit. And at the time, if you recall that election, you probably don't because you weren't paying attention to it then, but you might remember. John Kerry was known as a flip-flopper. And so they had a dolphin suit, like a full-fledged dolphin suit, that they would send around the state wherever John Kerry was going to be and have like counter protests for his arrival. And that was one of my first tasks.
You were the guy in the dolphin
One of my
suit?
first tasks was to organize that rally. And I was, like I said, I was brand new in the community. I didn't know anybody. And a lot of the volunteers for the political campaign were probably people over the age of 70. And it was the middle of July. It's like 95 degrees. I'm like, I'm not going to put anybody in a suit. So I put the dolphin suit on, and I was so. And there's a picture in Florida Today that you could probably still find in the archives if you go look it up in 2004. That's me in the dolphin suit because it was just you got to get it done. It was.
I love it. So where did you find people? Did you go to the local like shuffleboard tournaments, or did you go to the local bars and be like, hey?
More retirement homes than local bars.
Okay.
There's the Republican Party has the Republican Executive Committee, and they have the Republican Club. So those were a gold mine for volunteers.
Yeah.
And then, go to speak at, different Heritage Isle Community Center. You kind of work your way out in
Local
the crowd.
Rotary stuff and
different civic groups.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Whatever, I got, that's why it's easy for me to go speak to civic groups now, because I've been doing it for a long time. And I never thought it was that interesting, but people would still invite me back. So,
well, I think we're definitely going to invite you back onto our pod. I don't know if you'll accept, but
this has been fun. It's been a good one.
I'm literally Googling this Florida Today document right now. I'm trying to find the picture.
Is it possible if we find this that we could just throw up a little
100%,
a little pic? Yeah,
we need to see that picture. Amazing. Well, now here's John Kerry's face on a pair of flip-flops. That's pretty creative too.
that is good.
Yeah.
I remember. Do you remember stupidvideos.com? Did
No.
you never remember that? Okay. Mm-hmm. I think when I discovered stupidvideos.com, I think I wasted at least 1 month of my life at my job. I just was watching stupid videos at least 4 hours a day. It was pretty
it's
amazing.
Easy to do.
But during that campaign, they came out with this. This is a while back, so it's Cheney and Bush, or was it Cheney and Colin Powell? Anyway, they went and they had this little computer image of them walking up to John Kerry's door and lighting a bag of poop and ringing the doorbell, and then going behind a bush and waiting, and then he steps on it, poop goes everywhere, and they start laughing. It was
kind
hilarious.
of Billy Madison.
It was.
Billy Madison.
It was pretty great. But I watched that video over and over and over again, and I emailed it to at least 50 people.
Question: Is this you? Is this the one right here?
Could be.
It says Florida Times Union. Was that the suit?
No, that's Times Union. That was probably in Jacksonville.
It's in the New York Times.
That could be the suit.
2004. Yeah,
that could be the suit.
Similar.
It's very
vibe,
similar.
Yeah. Man, that thing looks hot, bro.
It was hot. I was dying. Oof. Yeah, I was dying by the time.
You're probably still burning calories today from wearing the suit back in 2004.
You just had a constant caloric deficit from that point on. How many Dr. Peppers did you smash that day? You know what I mean? You had to have been
probably a good 10, I would guess.
Let's go. But is it
Luckily, I think it was a breakfast. I think he was going to the Space Center, and he was staying at the Courtyard in Cocoa Beach. So I think the event, I can't remember if it was in the morning or it might have been 11 to 12. Whatever it was hot. I lost a lot of weight, I'm sure.
Isn't it crazy though that these are massive political campaigns, and this strange guerrilla marketing stuff still works. Still works. That's what they're concerned about. Mike, you got to get over there.
And that was before social media. So it was just more organic, but I think we had about 30 or 40 people there.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's great.
But I've left that all behind. I just want to clarify that I'm apolitical now.
I don't know.
As a chamber CEO, we don't support either party. We don't get into politics.
Good deal.
I
But
think the chamber needs a mascot. Maybe a dolphin or something.
Well, I maybe
we'll see how many of my staff listen to this and get this far into it.
No, we're going to ask your staff to put this link on your website.
Right,
I mean,
right.
I know it's one thing to have it on the website, but then you got to actually listen.
Yeah.
Well, no, but this will be this a minute long clip will be on LinkedIn tomorrow. So that's the problem,
There you go. That'll be the highlight of everything we discussed.
You got to take it out of context. That's how this whole thing works.
It's true. I should know.
You're a good sport.
I
Mike.
should know
That's
better.
Pretty fun, man.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, but honestly, man, I mean, there is an argument to be made that being apolitical and focusing on communal efforts might be more impactful, at least in our situation.
Absolutely. And like I said, in a lot of my, and at least for the last decade Plus, I've been in roles where it was apolitical, and when I was a lobbyist, I had to get just as many Democrats on board as I did Republicans. So I had to, make the argument from both sides to try and get consensus, and so that's been very helpful in this role, where I have chamber partners that are from all different political perspectives. Being able to work with all of them, and they may not always be happy all the time with what we're doing, but if I talk to them about it and give the rationale for why we're doing something, I think they at least respect that and understand that why, as an organization, we can't get involved politically, but that we're still going to work for the best Melbourne and the best Space Coast that we can.
See, and I'm like you. I like being the guy that kind of can bring everybody to the table and find the common good that we can all agree on.
Yeah.
And I've been approached a couple times about running for different things, and I've always had a pretty easy no, because I like to gather people and unite people.
Yeah.
I have an opinion, but I care less about my opinion than I do about let's finding something you and I can agree upon and work together on, like to me. And so I'd be a terrible politician. I'd be an absolute terrible politician, and I don't think I could get as much done.
Yeah.
There's so much red tape when you get into that world. I feel like I can get a lot more done just being who I am and being about the community. So.
And plus,
Kudos,
Matt,
bro.
you don't run. Remember? I'm sorry, that was horrible.
You're hilarious.
I'm done. That was a train wreck. All right.
Jerk.
Hey, Mike, just tell us, what do you do for fun, man? Like, what do you do? Is it you follow? I mean, are you early riser, stay up late, play golf? What do you do?
Well, between my job that is more than just a 40-hour-a-week job, and then having a almost 18-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a baby on the way, there's really not a lot of time for fun. But so luckily my job is fun. So so work is fun. But no,
his relationship is fun.
Yes, we're gonna cover that.
I love to spend time with my family. That's the big thing, and I'm a big sports junkie.
Nice.
Particularly college sports, Illinois. And then I'm a big baseball fan. Grew up a Cardinal fan. Minnesota Vikings in the NFL. So those are probably the ones, college football, college basketball, anything Illinois, and then Cardinals,
Chicago
Vikings. Bulls. I'm one of those weird kids that grew up in the Michael Jordan era in Illinois who was not a Bulls fan.
That is weird.
I don't know how it happened.
Very strange, yeah.
I was a big Phoenix Suns fan. I know. It was painful because I think we lost
I remember when we beat you guys.
Finals to the Bulls, and I was that one guy.
Was it because
in Illinois.
his name was also Michael? Like you were like, no, not this guy.
I don't know what it was. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
That's funny,
I was a big
man.
Charles Barkley fan.
I got
Well,
you.
Charles Barkley's he was a man.
Charles Barkley, Dan Marley,
Yep.
Kevin Johnson,
KJ.
Hornacek.
KJ.
Yeah.
KJ, I don't think got enough cred.
They were I think they were one of the best NBA teams to never win the championship.
Them and the Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stockton and Malone. I mean, I wouldn't have wanted to, them to win at the cost of the Bulls because I was a huge Bulls fan, still am. But yeah, Stockton and Malone, one of the most powerful teams in my opinion. Like, it sucks that they never got a championship. Those guys were amazing.
Yeah. I'm that weird guy who grew up in Illinois and didn't have a favorite Chicago team because baseball was St. Louis, where my mom grew up, and football was the Vikings because as a kid we went to a family wedding in Minnesota, and on our way back we stopped in Mankato, which is where they had training camp, and from that moment on I was hooked with the Vikings.
So do you still watch the Vikings play?
I do.
So do you think Kirk Cousins is the man to get it done?
I'd like to believe that.
I like to believe that too.
I think so.
I like him.
I think he can.
Yeah.
He's a great teammate, great leader.
Yep.
The team rallies around him.
He's got a beast of an arm. I don't think he gets enough credit for his arm strength.
He's pretty underrated.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. He's on a Netflix thing right now.
I did not know that.
So there's a Netflix thing just came out called Quarterbacks, and there's 3 quarterbacks that they highlight from last season. Kirk Cousins, Mahomes, and Mariota.
Okay.
And basically they follow them the entire season. And I watched some of it yesterday. It's pretty fascinating.
Let's check that out.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the reviews.
We're watching there's a new documentary on American Gladiators on Netflix.
I saw that. That looks interesting because I remember I was a huge
Gladiator fan.
Yeah.
That was like right when I was a kid.
Yep.
And so
you guys are going to have to catch me up to speed on that.
It's pretty interesting.
It seems
you
like
gotta go check it out.
It's a very dysfunctional thing that
was
going on.
very dysfunctional.
Wow.
I'm only on episode 3, so that's early.
Yeah.
But go check it out.
That sounds like something that's binge-worthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Very nice.
No, I remember reruns of this as I'm looking at it.
Reruns of what?
American Gladiators.
Oh. I watched it in real time.
Wow,
it's fun to see them now.
Yeah.
And as they give their perspective and see what they look like.
So are they all still alive? All the original?
Don't know. We haven't got that far.
Okay.
We've only got the original ones from the first season are not who you'd think. Like the only original was like Gemini.
Oh wow. Okay.
And Nitro.
Nitro. I remember Nitro. Yeah, he was popular.
But several of the original 6 didn't make it past season 1. So.
Yeah. I just ask if they're still alive, not to be morbid, but like I used to watch professional wrestling too when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
And so many of the pro wrestling heroes have like died tragically. And so it's and it was also very dysfunctional type of environment.
So does it goes into that like they're personal lives behind all of that?
Yeah, well the next episode talks about the rampant drug use and steroids and it does go into like behind the scenes, like how upset they were because the show was starting to do well but they weren't getting paid very well but they're like getting injured every week because it's like terrible work conditions.
You understand what roid rage is all about?
Yes, it lots of Man, I'm telling you, you just looking at those pictures, they were on some TRT for real. You know, at least people today are honest about it. You know, like people like I don't know, Joe Rogan talks about it all the time. That he's like on, you know what I mean?
I have a question for you.
What's up?
Okay, so I was thinking about this the other day. Are you fast? Can you run pretty fast?
I mean, I got a stride, you know what I mean? So I think that's maybe my advantage. Aubrey and I talk about this all the time, who's faster, but I don't think we've actually ever done like a foot race. I was pretty fast in college. I mean, we played collegiate soccer.
So we should probably do that after we're done here.
You're kind of a freak of nature, like in one sense. Like you're 6 foot, what, 9, 8?
Yeah.
All right. You're lean. You're athletic. You're leanish. You're athletic. You're strong. Why aren't you a tight end in the NFL right now?
I don't know, man. Because I went to art school, which was like, bro, you know what I mean? It's.
I know some guys.
I just contradicted everything that I was supposed to be.
I bet I could get you a tryout.
Get a tryout now?
No, I like.
Dude, you'd be a sick tight end.
That football was never my thing either.
You're
you know?
6'9". Who could guard you? If you could learn how to catch a football.
I like that's. See, I get all that out at jiu-jitsu, man. You know what I mean? That's like where I get out all the, whatever
get you a
I think.
Contract.
Right.
Okay, whatever. I was just trying to help.
I appreciate the vote of confidence.
Well, I was just thinking about it.
Mike, thanks so much, man. This has been fun, dude.
Are we done?
No, I got one more question.
We're pretty close.
No, I got one more question. I got one last question. It's more on the serious side.
I appreciate that.
We won't talk anymore about his steroids and potential football career. He doesn't take. I don't think he does. All right. So last question. what makes you tick as a human being? Just kind of like, your inner moral compass. And then what advice, second part, would you have to entrepreneurs, people that are going out and starting a business? Like what little piece of advice would you leave them?
What makes me tick? I think just trying to set a good example for my family and my kids, something to live by of, it's really simple, but it's like, and when we encounter issues with the chamber or things that are coming up, it's like, what's the right thing? Just do the right thing.
Yep.
And that's easy to say, but sometimes it's not easy to do.
Right.
But, if more people could live by that, I think that we'd be in a better place now.
I agree.
So that's kind of my why is just my family and trying to make the community better for them and for people that come after us.
Yeah.
One piece of advice for entrepreneurs, say don't give up.
Yeah.
I'm going to steal Larry Jarn's line.
Yes, I knew it was coming.
But I'll give credit to Larry. Be relentless. Don't take no for an answer. It's okay to get 10 doors slammed in your face.
Yeah.
Because you never know when the yes is going to be there.
Yep.
So if you have a great idea and you have a passion for it, keep going. Don't stop. I like to talk about the walk-ons in Vieira. The founder there was a walk-on for LSU basketball. That's where the name came from. He was a walk-on player and knew after college he needed to do something, and he and his buddy thought it'd be fun to open a sports bar restaurant, and they went to 25 banks to get a loan for their first location.
Wow.
And got 25 no's. And it was on the 26th ask that someone said, okay, we like your plan, we'll take a chance on you. And now here they are, close to 100 restaurants later.
Wow.
Because he didn't give up. And that's the best entrepreneurs have that spirit, they have that attitude that I'm going to make it happen no matter what.
Yep.
So
That's awesome. It's good.
Powerful, man.
Dude, thanks so much.
thank you.
Yeah,
It was
appreciate
fun.
you, Mike. It was.
Yeah, good times.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a good night.